Good afternoon, Farmly, and thank you so much for joining us here at Coastal Roots Farm for our virtual farm tour, highlighting our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Like so many of you and your organizations, life for us has been really different than it was just a few short months ago, and we're so grateful to be on the front lines of what's considered the critical sector, providing a service to the community who relies on us now more than ever. My name is Kesha Spoor, and I'm the Philanthropy and Communications Manager. And I'm eager to introduce you to my colleagues who are stationed all around the farm to share what we've been up to. So first, a little bit about who we are. Coastal Roots Farm is a nonprofit community farm and education center with a mission to cultivate healthy communities through sustainable agriculture, food justice, and ancient Jewish wisdom. So we nourish community through our 3 impact initiatives, including food distribution, environmental education, and Jewish life. We started as a project of the Leachtag Foundation in 2014 and became our own 501c3 nonprofit in 2015. So today you're going to hear all about the facets of our work that have been continuing during the pandemic, as well as about some of the new programs and modified protocols that we created that allow us to continue this work to nourish community while keeping them safe, of course. So we hope that the Wi-Fi connection is strong. We've tested all of our stations and our speakers are located all around and they're eager to show you what they've been up to. They are going to show you what's been growing, the technology we use to conduct our work, what's changing as the seasons change, and all about the programs. And throughout the presentation, my colleague Denise, who is on the back end, will be pasting various links into the chat window that correspond with the different programs and resources being mentioned, starting with a COVID-19 FAQ that's publicly available on our website, and we continue to update it so that our community is up to date with our programs. So first and foremost, we want to thank our community of supporters from the bottom of our hearts. You make our impact in the community possible, and we can't tell you how grateful we are. Just one housekeeping item before we jump in. Do feel free to type any questions that you have in the Q&A, which is located at the bottom of your screen. Our plan is to hear each speaker first, and then we'll have time for Q&A at the very end of the tour. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our fearless leader, Executive Director, Javier Guerrero.
Here today, and honestly for investing in our impact in the community during this time of need. We're so blessed to be a part of the solution and the critical sector as we provide fresh, organic, nutrient-dense food to those in need. And I can't say thank you enough as well to this team. I'm so proud of this team and for everyone who's jumped in, especially without our regular farm volunteers. We folded in our education team, our admin team, and everyone to support our production and distribution activities. And as Kesha mentioned, today you're going to hear from a number of our team members on the front line here on the farm and working so hard every day. And then before we jump into our tour, as Kesha also mentioned, I just want to express again that we're 100% committed to leaning into our work even deeper. And this includes especially facing food insecurity with low-income families and individuals, active duty military and veterans, immigrants, other low-income and homebound seniors, including our Holocaust survivors, and the general community. And we're able to do that through 2 main programs, and that's both our on-site Pay What You Can farm stand that you're going to hear about more today, as well as our off-site locations, which are direct donations, and you're also going to hear from one of our community partners there. And we're partnering up with Vista Community Clinic, military families and housings, senior centers. Again, I mentioned the Holocaust survivors and other local food pantries and agencies. And without further ado, I'd like to pass it back to Kesha, and thank you again. I hope you enjoy your time here on our tour, and I'm going to catch you on the back end.
Thank you so much, Javier. And it's my pleasure really to be the MC of this program. I get the pleasure of introducing all of the incredible people that you'll be hearing from today, starting with Ellie Honan, who's our farm production assistant manager. She's up in the compost. And one of the things that you'll see through this tour is basically from soil to food into the hands of the people who need it most. And we're starting up at the compost with Ellie. So take it away.
Hi there. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm up here at the top of the property near the compost and our food forest. So I'm going to turn my camera around so you can see the view. So up here we have our compost operation, and we lucked out on our timing. One of our community farmers, Oren, is actually up here mixing the compost. So you can see that with the tractor. And I'm going to flip it over here. If you can't tell on the screen, that's the ocean. Our compost has the best view on the property, which as a farmer, I deeply appreciate and feel is radically proper. The compost is really where everything starts and everything ends on the farm. We use what's called an aerated static pile system. And so you can see there's a blower connected to a motor, and that blower is actually forcing air up through the bottom of the pile. And that's been a really beneficial system in a couple different ways. We used to have to go in and mechanically turn all of our piles to get enough air in. But now we're saving a lot of wear and tear on our tractors, a lot of labor hours, and most importantly, the microbial communities in the compost can build up their networks without getting disrupted each time we go in and turn the pile. So that's been a really great system for us. The ingredients that go into our piles are a mix of vegetable scraps from our fields, down in the vegetable production fields, lettuce from Go Green, one of our neighbors. Go Green's the largest organic hydroponics operation in the country, and we're composting all of their lettuce and watercress waste. And then we have a community compost program, so we're composting those veggie scraps as well. And we're mixing all of that green waste in with mulch from local arborists. All of that material would have ended up in the landfill, so we're honored to be able to divert that. Since inception, we've diverted nearly 4 million pounds of waste from the landfill. But most excitingly, we're not just diverting that waste, we're actually transforming it into a really, really valuable resource for our farm, which is compost, one of our main sources of fertility. We're composting pretty much every bed that we plant into here, so it really is a valuable resource. And in terms of the COVID epidemic, fortunately, not too much has changed up here. The plants are still producing, we still have waste to process, so we're very lucky to be continuing to make this resource for our farm. Moving on to the food forest, one of the other crucial ways that we're fertilizing our fields is by moving chickens through them. And the best example we have of this is in our food forest. For those of you who aren't familiar, a food forest is a permaculture concept that seeks to work symbiotically with nature by mimicking a forest ecosystem. We have an 8-acre food forest. It's one of the largest in our region of its kind. And as part of our food forest, we have what's called a silvopasture. And a silvopasture is a combination of a forest ecosystem with pasture for animals. So in our silvopasture, we are combining rows of trees with rows of pasture, and we're moving our chickens through those rows of pasture. So you can see this is a view of the tops of the trees, and this section that you're seeing is our silvopasture. And the camera might be a little too small, but you can actually see the top of one of our chicken coops in there. So our chickens are able to move through those pastures, eating all of the greens that they want, as well as any bugs that are living in that pasture and in the soil. And as they move through, they're fertilizing that soil with their manure. So the trees on either side of the pasture are able to tap into that soil and tap into that fertility. And then after we move the chickens out of the pasture, we actually grow a crop of annual vegetables in there. And those crops are also benefiting from that fertility. And fortunately for us, the chickens have just eaten a lot of the bugs that might have been pests on our crop. So it's a really mutually beneficial system. We're really excited and honored to be practicing it here. And then in terms of the COVID epidemic and its effect on our food forest, for the most part, we're able to continue as is, but one pretty major element that we unfortunately have had to take a break from is accepting volunteers up here, which Javier mentioned. Volunteers are a really huge part of what we're doing, and it's a great educational opportunity for the community, but also a really valuable resource for us. So that's been a pretty big shift, and we've definitely missed our volunteers, missed the community, and missed that support. But as Javier mentioned, we've been able to make some shifts in team and had various people on our team, you know, down on the ground in the fields where that wasn't part of their role before. So it's been exciting in its own way to be able to kind of have that team bonding and step into each other's shoes. But we hope to have our volunteers back soon. And if any of you that have tuned in have volunteered in the food forest, thank you, and we miss you. So I'm going to pass it on to the next section on the farm.
Thank you so much, Ellie. For those who aren't so tapped in kind of to the farm community, it was new to me before I joined the Coastal Roots farm team, and there's this whole movement around female farmers. And I always think of it when we hear from Ellie, because I just think she is the most impressive person and really like so proud to work with her and her leadership here. So thank you, Ellie, for sharing about the food forest. I personally have a whole new appreciation for the chickens up there. That's been part of my added responsibilities, you know, with the loss of our volunteers, has been going up every Monday morning to collect the eggs. So it's really been a treat to do that. And now I'm so excited to introduce you to our extremely passionate, so colorful, vivacious farm manager, Adam McCurdy.
Thank you for the very warm welcome there, Kesha, and thank you all for joining us on this virtual tour. Many of you have been with us for what I've been joking around saying is an analog tour. And those are our favorite kind, getting you out to the property and out to the land here to see our fields and to meet our team. And I'm down here in the vegetable fields, the lower quadrant, where many of you who have visited our farm stand have seen, whether from afar or even maybe celebrated one of our festivals with us here. And as Ellie was mentioning, the regenerative cycle of the compost to feeding the plants from the roots right on up to the fruits that we are always so honored to be able to harvest for you, is these cycles that we ebb and flow within as we're caring for the community and caring for the land. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to steward this land and to have an open, warm door to educate and share with the community. And it's something we don't take lightly at all. And one of the things that we do in order to grow these amazing vegetables is many different cultural practices, which, true to these times of COVID, require resilience, agility, ingenuity. And we're seeing that come out in many different ways from individuals throughout the community and each individual that makes up a team. And we care for our team at the utmost. If we don't have a good team, we don't have anything. It doesn't matter how rich your soil is. It doesn't matter how you're positioned in the community. It really, none of it matters. So as Javier mentioned and Ellie made mention to, the entire team has shifted our daily tasks, our weekly tasks, our skill sets to all come together to participate in these cultural practices. Some of those cultural practices that I mentioned are something you've heard of many a times, regenerative agriculture. And we are practicing regenerative agriculture. And what that means is changing every day, not just here at Coastal Roots Farm, but throughout the entire farming community. And you can see right here behind me, so we're certifying through CCOF, so we're certified organic. We're caring for our soil with the compost that we're generating while, you know, offsetting all of that waste that Ellie mentioned. You can see here, this is one of the methods right here. This deep mulching method is part of our water conservation program and also part of our fertility management plan. So it allows for the nutrient uptake in what's called the rhizosphere, which is the area around the roots, for the plants to be taking up the utmost of nutrients. How does that transfer to the community? Well, we harvest it at peak nutrition and at peak time to get it to the community at that moment. And you know, everything has a little bit different timing as to when you can harvest and when you can distribute. You're going to hear more about our exciting distribution program from both Garth and Sara in a few moments. But those are a couple of our practices. That water conservation goes further into a drip irrigation that we work with. Netafim is an amazing organization who's a supporting partner of ours. And we do primarily all drip irrigation, except for when we're establishing those pastures up in that Silva pasture. before the chickens move through there to eat on the lush pasture that we're raising for them that Ellie made mention to earlier. Another thing to keep in mind, and you can see as I move around here a little bit, you can see the number of different crops. So what you see that I'm standing in is one variety of kale. Then you see it's going over to fennel, over to onions, over to broccoli, over to sunchokes. So that's not a mistake. That's biodiversity. And that is part of our crop rotation, which is how we mitigate our pest population, how we keep the vegetables growing, like I said, at peak nutrition. So with all of these different practices taken into account and reading into our microclimate and fielding the team accordingly, we're growing about 65 different varieties that we end up offering to you freshly harvested at the Pay What You Can farm stand or at many of our different partner distribution sites throughout the community. So I just want to thank you all for continuing to show up and give a little idea to how we're been able to keep our farm stand open, and not just open, as Javier mentioned, thriving into the next level. And it's taken the entire team in order to keep everybody safe, keep the distance at hand, and allow folks to be able to still come and receive their fresh food that is not only delicious fresh food, but it is, as I mentioned before, really a practice that we believe in, that our food is our medicine, and it should nourish you to go to the area where you're going to pick it up. It should nourish you when you sit down to prepare your meal or stand up to prepare your meal, and when you sit down to eat it with your friends, virtually or not. Thank you so much for being with us, and really hope that we get to do that analog tour with you soon. And for all you volunteers that have made this possible, we can't wait for you to come back. And as Ellie mentioned, we really miss you, and we're making it happen. We're going to be better than ever when this is all past us.
Thank you so much, Adam. So you can see, I mean, his personality and his passion is so contagious, and it really permeates throughout the team. So we're really, really grateful to have Adam leading the way on the farm side of things. One thing that Adam shared with me in early days is the fact that we grow 65 varieties in so many ways makes no sense, right? It's not the most profitable way to farm. This is something that Adam taught me, but it is the best way to nourish community, because we want to be as much of a one-stop shop for folks as we can. And there are a lot of people who rely on us. So it's incredible, I think, that they can come to the farm stand or the distribution, you know, that we do through our partners, and you'll hear a little bit more about that soon, you know, to be able to provide them the variety that they're looking for. And our tagline of nourishing community, right? It means so many different things. It's not just about the food. It's about the connection with the land. You can see that kind of oozing from the bodies of Ellie and Adam and everybody that you'll hear from afterward. So we're really just very grateful to do it. We started in the food forest where the soil is produced as a part of the compost and where food is grown. Adam's down in the vegetable production fields, and now we're throwing it over to Garth, who's our post-harvest and distribution coordinator, who sees all of our partnerships and where the food is off to from there.
Thanks so much, Kesha. Hey, everybody. I'm here at the post-harvest area of the barn where vegetables harvested from our fields are brought here to be weighed, recorded, washed, packaged, and labeled. The post-harvest space behind me here is well equipped to process all the diverse crops we grow, like Kesha was just alluding to here. We have a dunk tank station for washing greens like lettuce and kale. We have a power washer for cleaning root vegetables like bunches of carrots, beets, or one of my personal favorites in season right now, hakurei turnips. And we have a root washer apparatus to use for our larger bulk harvests. We use this when we need to clean large batches of root vegetables like radishes or parsnips. And in this area, we also have several coolers to keep our produce fresh and crisp. Once food's in the cooler, now we're ready for our next big step, and that's to distribute the produce to different areas of need. So this is a really exciting part of the process, because now we get to see the culmination of so much labor and love, as Adam so eloquently reported earlier. So I want to tell you a little bit about our beneficiaries who are receiving our produce. We distribute our produce in 3 different ways. We do off-site distributions. We have a Pay What You Can farm stand on site. And we also coordinate produce pickups with key partner organizations. For our off-site distributions, we're partnered with Vista Community Clinic and Helping Hand Worldwide. Vista Community Clinic serves low-income individuals and families, providing comprehensive healthcare services for everyone, regardless of their ability to pay or insurance status. We pack our distribution truck that we have here with fresh and seasonal produce, and we feed about 60 to 100 families every month at VCC. Alongside our partner Helping Hand Worldwide, we also take our organic produce to Camp Pendleton and feed 50 military families living on base every month. Since the pandemic, though, we've had to pivot quite a bit to continue serving these communities safely. These days, we pack bags for family units, which typically contain 4 to 5 vegetables and a special recipe in each one of those bags. In one recent week, for example, every bag we packed had a head of lettuce, a bunch of scallions, parsnips, and leeks. And we also included a recipe for a parsnip and leek frittata and salad with scallion vinaigrette to give recipients a really tasty way to prepare our food. So in addition to those 2 high impact distributions, we're honored to deliver our nutritious produce to Holocaust survivors and their families and meaningfully connect them to the San Diego Jewish community. Every week, I get to visit the homes of these Holocaust survivors and hand deliver a bag of our veggies. We've really gotten to know these individuals and their families, and it's such a privilege to have these moments and to get to know these people. Right now, I can't go into their homes, and we miss that contact, but we still maintain weekly communication over the phone, and of course, like a healthy 6-foot distance from their doorstep when we drop off the bags. Also, we provide weekly and monthly farm fresh pickups at no cost to our emergency food system partners in San Diego, including Community Resource Center, a phenomenal organization that offers critical services that facilitate the safety, stability, and self-sufficiency of low-income and episodically homeless households, including domestic violence victims. Seniors at Mercy Housing Cantabria Senior Homes. Mercy Housing is one of the nation's largest affordable housing organizations. We work closely with their staff to coordinate pickups every week to provide fresh produce for this vulnerable population. We also coordinate pickups with St. Andrew's Episcopal Church and the Jewish Family Service Corner Market and Hand Up Food Pantry in times when food is abundant at the farm. Lastly, we bring our produce down to our on-site Pay What You Can farm stand twice a week. Our wonderful impact evaluation and grants manager, Sara, will be telling you a little bit more about the farm stand in just a bit. Thank you guys so much for checking us out today. We're so thankful for the support to be able to continue doing all of this good work. Kesha?
Thank you so much, Garth. Garth came to us from an organization we collaborate with called Produce Good. They're one of our partners, and you can check them out. There's a link to them on our website as well, because they coordinate a once a week, which I think is on hold right now also because of circumstances, but they take food that would have otherwise gone to waste and make sure that it doesn't go to waste, and that people who are in need receive it. So Garth, I know, has a passion for this piece of the work, and we're just so proud that he, in many ways, is the face of the organization. He's the one kind of bringing the food out into the community and is always there at the farm stand, and really is just one of the nicest guys I've ever met. So thank you, Garth, so much. And I'm really thrilled to introduce you to Hermina Ledesma from VCC. She's the Outreach and Migrant Health Program Manager, and she's our contact here at VCC, one of the beneficiaries that Garth just mentioned. So thanks so much, Hermina, and we're excited to hear from you.
Thanks, Kesha. Thank you, Garth. Yeah, we also enjoy getting a visit from Garth every month. So we are expecting him on Monday, as we'll get our allotment of food for the month. Hi, everyone. Thank you for letting me share about our partnership with Coastal Roots. Like Kesha shared, my name is Hermina Ledesma, and I work as program manager for Vista Community Clinic. Most of our work in outreach and migrant health focuses on making sure that our community is connected to resources, and right now connected to essential resources like food access. And so our partnership with Coastal Roots is a beautiful connection and support to the work that we do, and allows us to really bring nourishment to the community, as the goal of Coastal Roots we know is making sure that our communities are nourished. Our partnership with Coastal Roots started a couple of years ago, and throughout that time it's ebbed and flowed. We are a federally qualified health center, and one of our goals was making sure that our care in the community was comprehensive. And so we know that folks who suffer from chronic morbidities like diabetes often suffer from food insecurity, and Coastal Roots really answered that call of making sure and partnering with us and making sure that folks had access to not just food, but really healthy food. And so we have, over the years, grown our partnership. I can tell you that our food distribution grew and has been growing since we've partnered. On the third Tuesday of every month, we see a spike in folks coming to our food distribution, and that's because they know that on the third Tuesday of every month, Coastal Roots is there with us. And I think one of the things that really worked well with our partnership is that Coastal Roots really had the resources for us to bring, and then we had the trust in the community, which over time, as Coastal Roots comes out into the community with us, they're folks are starting to recognize and coming out more on the Tuesdays, like I've shared. Recently, though, like many of your programs and many of the efforts that you've seen, we've all been impacted by COVID, and that's certainly the case for the community members that we serve. Our food distribution efforts were walk-up, but were changed to a safety, to oblige by all safety precautions. And so now it's an appointment-based system. And we are, in our overall reach, we actually help close to 1,000 families or 1,000 households get access to food on a monthly basis. And that's also counting our food access that we provide, that we're provided by Coastal Roots. One of the things that we noticed is getting non-perishables was a little bit easier for us, but really what we know, folks need access to the fresh fruits and vegetables that really complement and their overall health. And so one of the things that we recently started to do, like was shared earlier by Garth, is we're actually also delivering food. So our efforts are meaning to respond at a greater level to the access regarding food. And so our homeless bound seniors, we also are conducting visits to agricultural sites because we know that farm worker communities were some of the communities most impacted by COVID, that although take a big role in our food system, always suffer from food insecurity. And so our allotment that we receive is dispersed out in different forms in the community. And so as we continue to deploy these efforts, we're constantly taking note about what's needed in the community. And of course, access to fruits and vegetables, like I shared, continues to be a interest and access point that we want to make sure to increase. So I want to thank you all for letting me share, and I'll pass it over to Kesha.
Thank you so much, Hermie. Thank you for joining us. We are getting a couple of questions along the way, so I thank you for all of that, and we'll be sure to answer your questions at the end, and all of the speakers here will stay on so that you can get it kind of straight from the source. But Hermie, we are so grateful to work with you and work with BCC. We know that communities that are already marginalized are most at risk of some of the things you mentioned, hunger and COVID-19 being among them. And we also know that we're part of a much larger food system. So we're grateful to work beside food banks that can provide non-perishables, right? And we know that this is kind of our piece of the puzzle and the piece that we're able to contribute to. So, you know, like I keep saying it again and again, but we truly are so, so grateful to be able to do this work. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Sara, who's our impact evaluation and grants manager, who, among other things, has her hands in distribution, farm stand, impact, and she'll be sharing with you now.
Thank you, Kesha. I just want to start by saying I'm so excited and honored to be able to talk more about our food distributions and the farm stand in particular. It's what brought me to the farm almost 4 years ago, is just this really innovative and unique way to feed our community. And I'm just so proud for what we're doing. And as you heard from Garth and Hermina and more on our team, we have a really comprehensive organic food production and organic food distribution program to feed those who are marginalized in our community. And we really believe that Coastal Roots Farm is really uniquely able to address food insecurity in our community, especially during a time like this. We're unlike any other emergency food distribution program in San Diego, we feel, because we can grow our own organic food, we can harvest it and distribute it the day of directly to those that we're serving. And so this really means that the beneficiaries we reach are getting the freshest food possible. And that's just so unique to what we're doing. And we do that 4 to 5 days a week, every single week. So we're really touching a lot of people through our programs. And truly at the core of our organization and our ethos is that we believe that everybody deserves fair, equal, dignified access to fresh, nutrient-dense food, regardless of their ability to pay. So one of the ways that we do that, and you've heard this alluded to already, is we have an on-site pay what you can farm stand. So twice a week on Thursdays and Sundays, customers can come, they can utilize our pay what you can option to get up to $30 worth of produce at no cost if needed. And this is about equivalent value to an average CSA box in California. And our system prioritizes customers' dignity and agency of choice. So instead of getting a pre-packed uniform bag of food items that customers may or may not want, might end up wasting, they're getting to choose what food they want to bring home, and they can check out privately, paying what they're able to. So they don't have to ask staff for a discount. They don't have to explain it to us. Really, they're able to check themselves out with dignity. And that's our main priority. And we also want to make it feel the same as if it was a customer paying full cost. We don't want anybody to have a different experience at the farm stand, depending on if they're paying full price or if they're not paying full price. So really, our farm stand has proven to be a critical resource and access point for fresh food for many in our community. So when the COVID-19 pandemic began, we really knew that we wanted to stay open. We wanted and needed to be agile enough to meet these new challenges head on. And we knew that we needed to keep our community safe and healthy, all while doing something that would continue to bring a sense of normalcy and joy to our neighbors. So we, as soon as the pandemic kind of really took hold, we closed just for one day to recalibrate and open that following week with a fully new operational system in place that would ensure safe food distribution and meet all CDC recommendations for how to do so. So this has included social distancing car queues, number systems, menus of our availability and order sheets, so customers can still get that option to choose what they're wanting to shop for, but the staff is going to bag it up, and there's going to be a no checkout or a no touch checkout process. So since the COVID pandemic, we have safely served nearly 4,000 of our community members and provided them with more than $12,000 worth of produce at no cost. And the other interesting thing that we have seen, and what illustrates the far-reaching need in our community right now, is our definition of our community has truly expanded. We have customers visiting us from as far south as Chula Vista, as far inland as Escondido and Santee, and even as far north as Temecula and Orange County. So we're also really, really committed to evaluating our programs and better understanding the community that we're reaching. So since mid-March, we've actually surveyed more than 350 of our farm stand customers. And just some of that data that we've collected shows some really striking need in our community. 70% of those that we're serving has shared with us that COVID-19 has impacted their family's employment and or income. And more than half of those that we're serving say they cannot easily access fresh and healthy food. And they've shared with us really heart-wrenching and heartwarming stories. You can see a few up on the screen right now. We're serving disabled veterans, we're serving single mothers, and we're serving other marginalized community members. So just to close it out, our farm stand remains open to everybody in our community, both those who can pay and those who cannot. So we hope to see you there on Thursdays. We're open from 12 to 3 and 10 to 3 on Sundays.
Thank you so much, Sara. Our team is so lucky to have somebody that is as dedicated to data as Sara is, because you know, anybody who knows nonprofit knows how important it is to be able to share about the impact that you're making. And we hear stories all the time, and to be able to capture it in a meaningful way and really share out who we're serving and who we're affecting. One of the things that came out of this most recent farm stand survey is that about half of the customers are utilizing the Pay What You Can system. The other half are paying the suggested donation or donating above to, you know, to contribute to our impact in the community. So we have a wide range of folks accessing the service. We know that the need does not, you know, the need exists within communities of all kind. And just really, Sara, we're so lucky that you're able to capture this information and we get to share it out. So in addition to the food distribution, which has gotten basically so much of the attention so far, regenerative ag practices and the food distribution and the people we're serving through food distribution has been the focus of our call so far. And now I want to kick it over to Sharone Oren, who's our education manager, who's completely had to redefine, right? Like so much of our programming had to do with being on the farm. It's an incredibly special place. For those who haven't been on site, we encourage you to come for a public tour or a private tour for that matter, you know, when things are back open again. And in the meantime, the education department has redefined, gone online, and we're going to hear about that now.
Thank you so much, Kesha, for introducing me and in the education department. And I wanted to let folks know that yes, we did have to cancel and postpone many of our programs and events. And however, we decided that we're going to continue growing food here. We're not going to stop growing food. We're not going to stop maintaining our beds. So I'm going to flip the camera around to show you some of the things we're doing here on the farm. You can see right here, this was a fava bean plant, and we are right now just cutting it down, keeping it there so that it can give good nutrients back into the soil. We are prepping new beds for new planting. We're deadheading flowers. So just continuing to really maintain that space for new planting and new growth to happen. And since so much food is continuing to grow, we know that usually at this time, we would have lots of kiddos running around and tours, as Kesha mentioned, just people here to eat and harvest and prep food with what we're growing here. And we didn't want that to go to waste, so we are folding that into the distribution. So as you can see, some farmers there, as they're cutting down the fava beans, before they were actually harvesting some of those beans to give to the farm stand. This Sunday, we have leeks, we have carrots, we have onions, beets, we have arugula flowers and calendula. So all of those things, they're continuing to grow, and we're not letting it go to waste. We're asking our educators to come out here who would normally be educating children and leading tours and working with volunteers to shift their tasks and to start and to harvest and to continue to maintain those fields. And so really grateful for this team that was able to shift their skills and to learn something new so that we can continue feeding the community. We also know here in the education department that people they want to be fed not just physically, but also mindfully and in their soul. And so we have started brand new online learning, which we've never had before. And those include all sorts of venues. Something that we do weekly, every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you can catch us on Facebook Live. On Mondays, we have Monday morning scramble, where you will see Kesha and another one of our educators collecting eggs, talking about chickens, explaining the whole process from chicken to egg to the farm stand. And it's super fun to see that Monday mornings around 7 a.m. And then on Tuesday, we have Tuesday Tips from the Garden, with Megan, who is our education coordinator, just teaching people how to grow something at home. We know it's something people have started doing during this time, and we're really, we really want to put out that information for them to see how easy it can be and to give them tips so that if they're a little bit stuck, if they're unsure, they can learn from us. And then on Wednesdays, we have Ready, Set, Grow for families with young children with a story or a song. We have a craft, we teach a recipe, and it's just super fun to bring the farm to families' homes in this new way. Something else we've created are the online tools on our new page. So we know we get many, many questions about where should we buy chickens and what's a recipe for this vegetable, or do you have an article about farming or gardening? So we have created a brand new page using all different links that people can go through and find something they're looking for, whether it's farming, gardening, or even if they want to connect to Judaism in some way or learn about it. There are a few links for that as well. And speaking of which, we know people still want to engage in their Jewish belief or can maybe learn something about it. So another new online program we've created is called Havdalah, with partnership with the Hive here at Leach-Tag Commons. On Saturday nights, we have a Havdalah event where we say goodbye to Shabbat and we say hello to the rest of the week, kind of separating that holy time with the rest of the week. And it's just a beautiful way for community to come together and listen and hear and sing songs. And it's a great sense of connection. And we're just so thankful that we're able to put this on with the Hive and to have so many people joining us at the same time. We have also been supporting other organizations that have been partners with us through their webinars. So Climate Science Alliance put on a webinar that we participated in, and we get to use their curriculum here on the farm, teaching all about climate change and the food impact. We also supporting Bastyr University with their nutrition workshops, and it's just really great to be able to support amazing organizations that are also doing so much out there. And lastly, we have our own virtual learning that we have created for educators, where they can request a video with an activity, and we'll send them a recording for their students to watch us teach about pollination or soil or composting in a really kid-friendly way. And they can have an activity such as a drawing, any sort of craft, a recipe, a Q&A with a farmer, anything that they would think that their students would really like. So we're also putting that on for educators. So with so much happening here on the farm and education department, we really thank you for all of your support so that we can continue to do all of this work and feeding the people in body, mind, and soul. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharone. I know I can speak on behalf of the education department when we want to hear from you. We want to know what it is that's interesting to you. Those of us that are doing those Facebook Lives and all these things, Sharone is, if nothing else, Sharone will say, yes, 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 I want to do that. I want to meet this need. I want to hear what you want. And that happens within the education department nonstop. She's absolutely a yes person, a creative mind, and we're grateful to have her on the team. So please do share any feedback that you have, any ideas you have, and we're excited to continue producing all of this. So before we get to your Q&A, and I've been trying to answer some along the way, but there are some that are reserved specifically for the people who have been speaking to you today, I will just throw it back to Javier for some additional kind of closing thoughts.
Thank you so much, Kesha, and thanks to the team. I mean, I'm, again, like I said at the beginning, so proud of everyone here. It's such a blessing to be able to work with everyone and continue our mission around our organic food distribution program. And as Sharone was just mentioning, our environmental STEM education program. And what I'd also wanted to share is that we've actually expanded our programming. Our on-site programming here goes pre-K through 12th grade. And so we have structured curriculum that's following Common Core, New Generation Science Centers, and so on, that happens here at the farm. And so I'm really proud about how they've been able to incorporate some of that into online resources. One of the things I wanted to share around education in the space that Sharone was in there is actually our education farm and garden areas. So we do have a dedicated space here on the farm specific for schools and groups to come and be hands-on in the fields on the farm. And what happens is the food that doesn't get used as part of the actual program, that the kids get to try the food themselves and whatnot, the excess food from those fields actually feeds into our food distribution program. So nothing goes to waste, and actually the kids that come out, they get to really learn and see about how they too can be a part of the solution and help food and secure families here in the community. So I'm really excited that during this time, we're actually getting a lot of our spaces ready for when we are eventually able to open. Thanks to SDG&E, we actually just received an Environmental Champions grant to expand our, to create a new nature play area, but as part of that is a new garden beds that are going to be part of our education garden and farm area. And those are going to be, again, feeding into our food system. So in that time, until we can welcome people back onto the farm, we're going to be able to be growing more food. And that's all in connection with our education programs. So we also have a new space that I just wanted to quickly mention. It's our Farm STEM Science Lab, which is an area that we rebuilt out of some structures up here above the food forest near the compost area. So we have a new hands-on science lab with microscopes, and that's allowing us to really take what the kids are learning out in the fields and learning and understanding soil and bring it into a lab space. So much to talk about there. Just to reiterate some of our impact, before we get to our Q&A here, again, since inception, the farm, I just want to really take some of these numbers home. 190,000 pounds of nutrient dense fruits, vegetables, herbs, and eggs that have been donated at no cost for a majority of this food, which is more than 127,000 pounds donated of the 190,000 pounds. Distributing this to 157,000 individuals in the community. As Ellie was mentioning up there in the food forest and our compost area, we've diverted 4 million pounds of organic waste from the landfill since inception in 2014. And that's offsetting the CO2 emissions equivalent to 5,600 cars being taken off the road. And as Sharone was touching on there, with our programs, since 2014, we've engaged 30,000 individuals on the farm through education programs, volunteering, tours, and events. And then the final thing that I just wanted to share out before going to the Q&A is, how people can get involved, especially during this time of COVID. So, we do have this farm tour today, but as Sharone was mentioning, we have and will be having more virtual farm events that people and resources. So looking at those, but also sharing those out with people. We do have opportunities to be a corporate volunteer and a corporate partner, and we have all of them listed on our website, as well as the foundation and other key supporters that have joined us along the way to make this work possible. As well as, donations to our impact through direct donations or through donor advised funds. People can pick whether they want it to go towards our organic food distribution program or environmental STEM education. We do have our Farm Founder Circle membership. So this is a giving circle, and there's information about all this on our support page of our website. And then very importantly, spreading the word. I really appreciate everybody coming out today to learn about the farm and just talking about what we're doing. So if you know somebody out in the community that could also just benefit from the resources that we're providing, that's what we're trying to do, is to get the word out and build our community. And again, just such a pleasure to have everybody. And then of course, here you have our contact information, my direct contact information, as well as Kesha's. Also, my cell phone is 619-504-4723. So you're welcome to call me on my cell phone as well. And that's it. I just want to say thank you again. I'm going to turn it back to Kesha, and we're going to run through some Q&A. And I would love to hear from people.
Thank Thank you so much, Javier, and thank you again to everybody who participated: Javier, Hermina, Sara, Ellie, Adam, Sharone, and Garth. I'll get through as many questions as I can. We want to respect your time. So with the last 10 minutes, hopefully we'll be able to get through these awesome questions. And I'm going to start with Adam, if I may. Let's see, let me get back to that question. There was one from John Hervey. What are we planting now, Adam? Gearing up for summer. Let's unmute Adam. There you go.
All right. So we are in multiple, so we plant out in successions. So we're direct sowing into the field depending on the specific crop, or we're starting our seedlings up in our propagation house. And so right now we've transplanted out 2 successions of tomatoes, cucumbers. We're direct sowing beans. We've already direct sown peas that are climbing up their trellis now. We're moving in out of the cooler weather crops into the warmer season. So we do have select, as I mentioned in the crop rotations and the varietals will grow. It's an ongoing learning process to find out what varieties are climate specific, because every crop really appreciates a different microclimate. And so we're still planting out lettuce, even though we're heading into the hot season. But we have select varieties that do well with the heat and don't just bolt out. That means go to seed, because as an annual, once it gets to a certain temperature, they'll bolt out. So we're harvesting everything that we planted out throughout the winter, like these greens that I'm in here. These are like kind of our minimized tillage scenario with the deep mulching. These were planted out at a time when we weren't succeeding in the propagation house to sow the seedlings. So we actually direct sowed them into the soil, which was real on the feet thinking and innovation led by Ellie, our assistant production manager. So that's a quick summary to the number of things we're growing, but we're still planting out direct sowing carrots, direct sowing beets, direct sowing beans, transplanting lettuce, transplanting onions, transplanting our solanaceae, which would be our second and third successions of our tomatoes and eggplants and peppers. We're getting our winter squash in the ground. I'll keep going.
Thank you so much, Adam. We often cut Adam off because, like I said, just so much passion, and the amount of food that's grown, I mean, it's just unbelievable. So thank you so much, Adam, for what you shared, and stay tuned. We do tend to post on Facebook and Instagram stories what's being sold at the farm stand, so that's a good way to stay tuned, and we'll be sure to do that as well. So I'm going to throw it over to Ellie. There's a couple of kind of compost mulch questions that I'm hoping you can answer both. The one is, could you type of compost? I think that's referring to the piles, and then what you call the pasture in the food forest referred to, and then I'll give you the other one too.
Could you repeat that? It actually cut out for me a little bit. I think maybe.
Yeah, no worries. So just to speak about, I think it's the aerated static piles. I think probably a question from Mr. Hank, and then what you call the pasture in the food forest.
Yeah. So our aerated static pile. Flip it around again just so you can see what I'm referring to. It's a system that involves a long, what we call a windrow, but basically a long pile. And we have a blower that's connected to a motor, and that blower is connected to a perforated pipe, and the pipe runs under the bottom of the compost, and that enables us to aerate the pile through the bottom. A lot of other compost methods, you have to go in and manually turn the pile in order to get enough oxygen. The microbes that are basically fueling the compost process need oxygen and water. And so we water our piles, but to get that oxygen in, we would either need to turn the pile manually, or in our case, we can use this aerated static system. But there's so many other different methods of producing compost. There are compost turners, which are a smaller scale home style of composting. And that's a system that is completely enclosed, and you can use a hand crank to turn the whole pile. And then there's the good old fashioned pile in your backyard that you turn with a pitchfork. So there's really all sorts of ways to get the compost microbes the oxygen that they need, but the way that we're using is called aerated static pile. And then in terms of the pasture, we're seeding a cover crop blend of several different types of crops that we then are able to move our chickens through. So it's not a perennial pasture. We reseed it each time we move the chickens through. And that way we're able to also grow annual crops in the same space. We're growing a variety of different annual crops, and then we let the land rest for a little bit. We reseed for the chickens and we move the chickens through. And for food safety, we follow organic certification protocol, and we have a 120-day waiting period between moving the chickens through that pasture zone and harvesting our crop. And that's, again, just for food safety. But the pasture is essentially an alleyway between the rows of trees. It's another term for it is alley cropping. And we're just alternating between alleys, cropping with pasture and annual vegetables. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much. This one, I don't know if maybe this is a Sara one or an Ellie one. I'm looking to our staff that have been kind of longer term staff on the farm, really seen the ebbs and flows of Coastal Roots Farm and all of the growth. There's a question from Megan Thomas, and thank you so much, Megan, for your support. She's asking how much the farm has grown since it, are we in our sweet spot? Is it just right? Or are we going to continue growing physically and programs? I know that's more of a Sharone thing, but I know you could probably speak to both.
Sure, I'll start. I think Javier mentioned it, but we've grown almost 200,000 pounds of food since inception in 2014. It's around 190,000 pounds. And luckily, we are in a time of coming into summer abundance. And so, you know, not that there's ever good timing to have a pandemic, but as you know, we've seen the need for food double and triple, and that need growing in so many different areas of our different food distribution programs. We're lucky enough to be in a place where we can meet that need. And if Ellie wants to talk more about it from a production point of view, you know, and I'm happy to have her go into more detail, but if anything, we've even kind of reached more partners through emergency one-offs as well, including serving USO, Wounded Warrior Homes, and others. So we're really trying to broaden and reach as many community members as we can.
Okay, with you both, maybe I'll just move on to another question. I just want to get to as many as we can. The question is from Randy, with the increase in need, is there a supply issue? It kind of speaks to the same question of the amount of space we have and what we can do with it. So I don't know, Sara or Adam maybe. Adam's raising his hand. Denise, will you unmute him? Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a really, it kind of feeds into the previous question as well. And I got a little chuckle when you said, have we found our sweet spot? Because there's certainly sweetness about the spot we're in, and there's certainly ongoing challenge and the scalability of, as Kesha mentioned earlier, the diversity of the crop. And if we're growing 65 different things, we're sure to be growing some of those not at peak efficiency. So we really, as far as the food safety goes and the way we're harvesting, you know, we're wearing gloves and we have hand washing stations, and we didn't always wear a mask when we harvested before, but we do now. And that was an easy transfer because we always had the risk and pathogen, as Ellie mentioned about the chickens rotating through, and when we harvest those crops in 120 days. We're constantly thinking about that as there's different outbreaks within our food system. But, you know, harvesting local, washing it, getting it as fresh as possible, that's the way you can mitigate those things. But we still have the same challenges and risks. And so we're really, as Sara said, it is never a good time for a pandemic. I mean, most of us have never been in one. So, but we were poised really well for this. We were scaling up anyhow. That alley cropping that Ellie's speaking of, we had chickens in an area that then we sowed parsnips and carrots, and we had 5 beds of carrots, which equated to thousands of row feet of carrots. And we have brought in from that bed alone over a ton of carrots. That's never any scale that we've done here at Coastal Roots before. And part of that is the crop rotation that I was speaking of, and part of that is the hearing the demand. Now everybody wants more strawberries too. Sorry, we have to look at how much labor we have and what it takes to do it. So we think about how we're going to do it, and then we grow into that degree. So we're poised with our produce storage, with our onion planting. One of the first things we did as the pandemic hit was everybody from the whole team came together, and we planted out over 4,000 onions. And we just did that in a morning. And there were folks on the team that had never planted before because that's not their role on the team. And we came in and we just busted it out. And so all those onions will be in storage. So we think about how we store, how we go fresh. And to Sara's point, we're delivering 12 months a year. And there's more demand than we can supply for, I can tell you that. So the sweetest spot would be to please everybody, but we can't do it. But we're in a pretty good spot, and we were pretty well poised with our increased production and that crop rotation that we spoke of earlier.
Awesome.
That answer?
I think so, but we're always open to feedback. I'm going to put my email in the chat here, available to everyone. I think I'll just take one more question just to kind of keep us on time, but do feel free to email me if there's something that didn't get answered, and I'll direct it to the right person. But this one's for you, Garth. I hope it's easy enough. I don't know if you're on your phone or your computer, but Barb wanted to actually show the cleaning stations that you referred to. Much of this has been donated by the county, and we're so grateful for that partnership. And we call the post-harvest area, there's one machine there that we like to refer to as the car wash for veggies, and you'll see why.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kesha. Thanks for your question, Barbara. Happy to give you a quick little tour of our post-harvest area here. These were the dunk tanks I referred to earlier. We fill those up with water, follow all of our food safety protocols before and after. We dunk our lettuce and our kale in these before packing them up and storing them. Kesha, the car washer for vegetables. I love it. Never heard that actually before, but boy, it's that totally true. We've got a little conveyor belt assembly system here. We're throwing all of our dirty bulk crops on here. We're turning this thing on. It's connected to our water systems. So we've got water coming out of here and bristles that are going to be cleaning these root vegetables as they travel along through this conveyor belt onto this Lazy Susan table here, which makes for easy packing and then storing in our coolers. So thanks for that question, Barbara. Hope you get a chance to come and see it in person, hopefully not too far from now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Garth. Really, we just want to thank all of you again so much for participating. We had about 100 attendees joining us today. I hope you learned something. We recorded it, so we'll definitely make it available. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. We thank you so much for your support of our impact. It's really, truly our pleasure to do the work that we do, and hopefully we'll see you in the not too distant future.